to this risk that we're talking about, what would we have to deter China? In my opinion, we have economic strength. China will probably have more military, bigger navies, more weapons, more missiles. They'll have nuclear. They've got space. They have a space station. They've got all of that. But what if they had an internal economic crisis because none of the major economies of the world were investing there, doing business there, creating jobs there? It would be the collapse of their economy that would be our best leverage in China. So
the ethical imperative of global cooperation for shared prosperity. In an increasingly interconnected world, the idea that nations can rise and prosper in isolation while others falter has proven not only untenable but also counterproductive. History and moral principles, especially as articulated in the Bahá'í teachings, emphasize the interdependence of humanity and the necessity for cooperation among nations to ensure collective prosperity. The aspiration to achieve prosperity for some while wishing for or enabling the economic collapse of others leads to misery for all. This essay will explore the moral, economic, and practical imperatives of global cooperation, emphasizing how a shared vision for humanity is the most sustainable path forward. It will also critique actions such as sanctions and restrictions aimed at hindering the development of nations, arguing that such policies are morally indefensible and counterproductive. Humanity as one family. The Bahá'í teachings stress the fundamental oneness of humanity. The earth is but one country, and mankind its citizens, Baha'u'llah declared, urging humanity to transcend narrow nationalistic goals in favor of a global vision. This principle reflects an inherent interdependence, economic, social, and environmental, that binds all nations together. When one part of the human family suffers, all are affected. The notion that prosperity in one region can be sustainable while others collapse contradicts the principle of unity. Wishing for or working towards the economic downfall of another nation often leads to unintended consequences, such as destabilization, migration crises, or global economic downturns. Instead, policies and actions rooted in cooperation and shared goals align with both ethical and practical considerations, fostering a world where all nations can thrive together. The economic reality of interdependence. Globalization has deeply interconnected national economies. Supply chains, technological advancements, and financial systems transcend borders, making the prosperity of one nation dependent on the stability and progress of others. The 2008 financial crisis, for example, illustrated how economic turmoil in one part of the world can ripple globally, affecting industries, employment, and livelihoods far beyond its origin. Sanctions and trade restrictions, often imposed with the intent to hinder development in targeted countries, exemplify a flawed approach. While sanctions aim to exert political or economic pressure, their long-term effects often harm innocent civilians, exacerbate poverty, and destabilize regions. Moreover, they can backfire economically on the imposing nation by disrupting global supply chains and creating uncertainty in international markets. Instead of fostering isolation, nations should focus on collaborative initiatives such as trade agreements, joint scientific research, and shared technological innovation. These endeavors not only enhance prosperity for all, but also build trust and reduce the likelihood of conflict. One of the most controversial tools in international relations has been economic sanctions. While rarely justified as a means of promoting peace or deterring aggression, sanctions frequently undermine the very principles they purport to uphold. From an ethical perspective, sanctions are antithetical to the vision of unity and cooperation. Sanctions disproportionately harm the most vulnerable populations in targeted countries, exacerbating inequality and suffering. For instance, US sanctions on several countries during the last decades have led to severe economic crises, affecting access to medicine, food, and basic necessities for millions of civilians. These measures isolate nations, rather than bringing them into the fold of constructive dialogue and shared progress. From a practical standpoint, sanctions often fail to achieve their stated objectives. They may weaken economies temporarily, but rarely lead to regime change or improved governance. Instead, They create antagonism, foster resentment, and sometimes drive targeted nations to form alliances with others in ways that further polarize the global landscape. Cooperative models. The alternative to sanctions and isolationist policies is cooperation. History provides numerous examples of how collaborative approaches yield better outcomes for all involved. The European Union, EU, is a testament to the power of cooperation. Born out of the ashes of World War II, the EU aimed to prevent future conflicts by integrating economies and fostering collaboration among member states. Through shared policies, open borders, and economic integration, the EU has not only maintained peace among historically warring nations, but also created one of the largest and most prosperous economic blocs in the world. Belt and Road Initiative. China's Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, illustrates another model of global cooperation. By investing in infrastructure projects across Asia, Africa, and Europe, the BRI seeks to enhance connectivity and economic development. While the initiative has faced criticism, its underlying principle, that shared infrastructure and trade benefit all parties, aligns with the idea of mutual prosperity. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, offer a framework for global cooperation to address critical challenges such as poverty, inequality, and climate change. These goals underscore the interconnectedness of humanity, emphasizing that progress in one area often leads to advancements in others. In addition to its moral and ethical underpinnings, cooperation makes practical sense. Consider technological innovation. Breakthroughs in medicine, renewable energy, and artificial intelligence often result from international collaboration. When nations pool resources and knowledge, they accelerate progress and distribute its benefits more broadly. Climate change represents one of the most urgent examples of global interdependence. No single nation can address the crisis alone. Collaborative efforts, such as the Paris Agreement, demonstrate the necessity of unified action to mitigate climate risks. A fragmented approach, where nations prioritize short-term national interests over collective goals, jeopardizes the future of the planet. The COVID-19 pandemic highlighted both the dangers of isolationism and the potential of cooperation. Nations that shared data, resources, and vaccines fared better than those that adopted insular approaches. The global effort to develop and distribute vaccines underscored the importance of solidarity in addressing shared challenges. The ethical mandate for unity. Bahá'í ethics call for a fundamental rethinking of how nations interact. Competition and adversarial policies should give way to collaboration and mutual support. Baha'u'llah's vision of a unified world where every nation shall shine forth as a star and humanity's collective progress is prioritized offers a blueprint for addressing contemporary challenges. This ethical mandate extends beyond governments to individuals and communities. Citizens worldwide can advocate for policies that promote cooperation, resist divisive rhetoric, and support initiatives that align with the principle of unity. Education, dialogue, and grassroots movements play critical roles in fostering a culture of collaboration. Overcoming barriers to cooperation. Despite the clear benefits of cooperation, significant barriers remain. Nationalism, economic protectionism, and ideological divides often hinder collaborative efforts. Addressing these barriers requires a multifaceted approach. Education. Raising awareness about the interconnectedness of global issues can shift public opinion and policy priorities. Incentives. Creating economic and political incentives for cooperation encourages nations to work together. Institutional reform. Strengthening international institutions, such as the United Nations, can facilitate more effective collaboration. Leadership. Visionary leaders who prioritize unity over division can inspire collective action. The moral, economic, and practical imperatives for global cooperation are clear. Wishing for the economic collapse of other nations not only undermines the principle of unity, but also leads to widespread misery. Instead, embracing a shared vision for humanity, rooted in the ethical teachings of the Bahá'í Faith and supported by historical and contemporary examples, offers a path to sustainable prosperity. As humanity faces unprecedented challenges, from climate change to health crises, the need for unity has never been greater. By fostering cooperation, rejecting divisive policies such as sanctions, and working towards a shared future, nations can ensure a better world for all. This is not merely a moral ideal, but a practical necessity for the long-term prosperity and survival of humanity.
Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video valuable, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button. It's one of the best ways to help more people see this content. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So leave a comment below and join the conversation about today's topic. Your engagement and support mean everything to me and make it possible for me to create more impactful content that aims to bring the world closer together. If you'd like to take it a step further, you can support the channel directly through the link in the description. Every bit of support helps this community grow and fuels the mission to make a difference. Thank you for being such an important part of this journey.